Thank you all for listening and watching my videos. Please subscribe and like my channel Master Coolits. Hoping that you will not skip my ads, it's a big help for me by not skipping it. Thank you so much. Dragon Shadow. The Rise.
In the past, Hugh had dismissed Zayn as insignificant, viewing him as nothing more than a jester unworthy of attention. However, Zayn's influence had been steadily growing, from his interactions with Elora to his impact on Harrison Xavier. By the time Zayn reached the Azure Dragon Academy, his presence became impossible to ignore. Gradually, he began to claim what Hugh had always considered his birthright: honor, opportunities, and even the affections of those around him. Zayn had transformed from an afterthought into a persistent thorn in Hugh's side.
Must you take everything that rightfully belongs to me, Zayn?
These things were never yours to begin with. How can one take what isn't owned?
Enough. I'll put an end to your ambitions here and now.
I welcome you to try.
The two adversaries took their positions on opposite sides of the stone bead. With a mere gesture, a sword and a crescent moon blade materialized in the air above their heads. Their eyes locked, each burning with the desire for supremacy. Without uttering a word, their weapons clashed in a fury of sword radiance. The battle erupted with ferocious intensity. Sword energy lashed out in all directions as they exchanged more than 10 blows in mere seconds, neither giving an inch to the other. Suddenly, a subtle yet powerful aura emanated from the enormous sword that Zayn had summoned. It surged forward, colliding with the crescent moon blade with tremendous force. Hugh's prized weapon reeled from the impact, tumbling through the air. His expression darkened as he willed the blade back into the fray, its edge now wreathed in an ominous jet-black light. After forming several shadow attacks, siege giant swords materialized in all directions. The dark energy pulsed hungrily, like a pack of wolves closing in for the kill.
Shatter!
At Zayn's command, his sword began to spin with incredible speed, generating a tempest that swept away the encroaching darkness like a white dragon devouring shadows. The white dragon tore into Hugh's weapon, its ethereal fangs sinking deep into the blade's essence. In a blinding flash, the crescent moon blade exploded into countless fragments.
What? How could this possibly be?
A shocked Hugh mumbled to himself, his face draining to a sickly pale shade.
That's impossible. This can't be happening.
Gritting his teeth against the spiritual backlash, Hugh summoned an even more formidable weapon. A new blade materialized in the sky above his head, adorned with a grim, dark skull that exuded a bone-chilling aura. The moment it appeared, it launched towards Zayn with the ferocity of a rabid beast. As the battle's intensity escalated, Zayn's composure stood in stark contrast to Hugh's growing madness.
Go to hell, Zayn! You're unworthy of the King's Sword. Why must you take what belongs to me? Everything here is mine. They're all mine. No one can take them from me.
Hugh's appearance had become wild, his hair disheveled and eyes bloodshot as he bellowed with unbridled rage.
Can you not see how desperate you've become, Hugh?
Among the watching disciples, hushed conversations and debates broke out.
How ironic. You used to bully others as the first disciple of Azure Dragon Academy, Hugh, and now you face defeat. You've lost your mind. You deserve this humiliation. Someone like you is not qualified to wield the King's Sword.
The crescent moon blade suddenly shattered. In the sky, hundreds of identical, sinister blades materialized, launching a fierce and relentless assault. A deafening sound rang out as dark energy surged forth. Throughout it all, Zayn's expression remained as serene as a still pond, betraying not the slightest hint of concern.
Yours? Seems all those years you spent honing your martial arts were in vain. None of these things were ever truly yours. What do you actually possess, Hugh? In the end, you have nothing.
At that moment, Zayn's giant sword pulsed with power, tripling in size. It unleashed a blinding radiance, followed by countless beams of brilliant silver light. The sword rays whistled through the air, and in that instant, all of Hugh's strange crescent moon blades disintegrated into fine powder.
Ah! 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 Ah!
Hugh's agonized screams echoed across the arena, a sharp pain lancing through his skull. He clutched his head in his hands, his cries becoming increasingly hysterical.
Why? Why is it always you, Zayn? Every single time.
Once Hugh had been a formidable and domineering presence in the Azure Dragon Academy, brooking no disobedience. Now he faced a crushing defeat before everyone, having lost to Zayn yet again.
No, I refuse to accept this. I won't.
In desperation, Hugh placed his hand on the stone bead once more, attempting to condense sword radiance. The crescent moon blade flickered weakly into existence before fading away. He was clearly no match for Zayn now.
Enough, Hugh. You've lost. Step down.
Harrison Xavier's brow furrowed, his heart heavy. Though both were his disciples, Zayn had proven himself the more exceptional.
I didn't lose. I can't have. The King's Sword candidacy is my right. No one can take that from me. It's mine. It belongs to me.
Zayn rose to his feet, frowning. Suddenly, an intense sword radiance erupted from his body. Like a terrifying behemoth, it charged the air around them before enveloping Hugh completely. The surrounding disciples' eyes widened in shock, audible gasps rippling through the crowd. Even Hugh stood utterly stunned. Faced with the overwhelming pressure of Zayn's sword aura, he seemed as insignificant as an ant.
You were never my equal. Now, be gone.
The force of Zayn's command sent Hugh hurtling through the air. He staggered upon landing, his eyes glazed and unfocused. The reality of his defeat slowly sank in, its magnitude almost too much to comprehend.
Are you able to continue, Hugh?
Hugh remained unresponsive, both mentally and spiritually shaken by the ordeal. He seemed oblivious to everything around him.
The victor is Zayn.
Hugh shuffled away like a man sleepwalking. No one knew where he was headed, and none moved to stop him. For years afterward, Hugh vanished from sight. Some speculated that he had suffered a complete mental breakdown, unable to bear his failure. Others claimed he had left the Five-Spirit sect in disgrace, his whereabouts unknown.
With Hugh's withdrawal, Zayn and Tiana will now proceed to the third round.
The two remaining contestants approached the cliff where the King's Sword stood. Before them loomed an ancient, enormous black sword firmly rooted in the ground. Its presence exuded a powerful sword radiance and the unmistakable scent of blood. An aura of ancient might emanated from the blade.
For the third round, you must communicate with the King's Sword's essence using your own sword radiance. The one who achieves the highest degree of resonance will be declared the winner. Tiana, you're first.
Understood.
Tiana stepped forward, her usually innocent expression now one of intense focus as she neared the King's Sword. She sat down, closed her eyes, and began to meditate. Time seemed to flow differently. An hour passed in what felt like moments. Neither Tiana nor the King's Sword appeared to move. Suddenly, the King's Sword began to quiver and emit a low hum.
Look! Something's happening!
The crowd's attention snapped back to the sword, anticipation building. The sword's power, imbued with the essence of an ancient, powerful demonic beast, awakened. A terrifying roar echoed from within its core. The beast's roar triggered a violent hurricane, hurling broken stones skyward and sending Tiana flying along with the debris.
Excellent!
Maxwell Reed's face lit up with excitement.
Aha! Marvelous! This reaction was far more intense than we've seen from previous King's Sword candidates. Well done, Tiana!
Thank you, Deputy Hall Chief.
Tiana beamed with pride, casting a pleased glance toward Zayn.
Next up, Zayn!
As the audience watched, Zayn Martel walked forward, his repulsive force palpable with each step. It was as if an invisible wall stood in his way. He sat down, closed his eyes, and began to try to communicate with the Sword King. The scene seemed fixed. Everything remained unmoving in their place.
Do you think there's any hope for Zayn Martel?
Didn't you hear? Even Maxwell Reed full of praise? Terran is definitely the next Sword King this time.
And we've all seen how the Sword King selection went in the last few years. Nothing was as exaggerated as what we saw today.
The surrounding disciples discussed amongst themselves. Even Xavier, who had always been confident in Zayn Martel, was slightly concerned. After all, the Sword King had a reaction that was far beyond the average of what they would normally see from any candidates for Sword King.
I've got to focus. I need to merge with the Sword King.
In the dark, his surroundings had become dark and quiet. A trace of his spiritual force had unconsciously integrated with it.
Kid, open your eyes.
A hoarse voice sounded next to Zayn Martel's ear. When he opened his eyes, what he saw completely startled him. It was empty all around, as if everything was completely swallowed up by the endless darkness. Only a faint light emitted from his body. Before him was an old man in his 80s, with white hair and standing with his hands clasped behind his back as he approached to observe him.
Where am I? Wasn't I competing in the Sealed Sword Valley to be the Sword King?
This is the body of the Sword King.
The body of the Sword King?
His voice was laced with shock.
I drew your mental energy in so you arrived here, and you're here because I want to talk to you.
In a state of confusion, Zayn Martel managed to grasp a slight understanding of things. However, he did not expect that an old man resided in the Sword King. And judging from the situation, those outside did not know the existence of the old man at all.
Senior, why did you ask for me?
Although he could not sense the aura of the old man, it was likely no simple matter for him to be able to exist within the Sword King.
I want you to pull out the Black Abyss sword.
The Black Abyss sword?
Yes, your so-called Sword King.
But I don't have such strength.
To pull out the Sword King was the dream of every member of the Hall of the Holy Sword and every disciple of the Five Spirits sect. As long as he pulled out the Sword King, all the sword vigor would be completely released. Then the 5 kinds of blood essence sealed under him would be unsealed. When that happened, the strength of the Five Spirits sect would undoubtedly rise a great deal. However, even with the help of the Elder Hall Chief's sword power, the candidates for the Sword King of each generation could only slightly shake the seal at most. To completely pull it out, they would have to wait a long time. How would Zayn Martel, a mere 9th level of the foundation level, even dare to think about such an endeavor? Although the old man's face was sallow and thin, his face carried with it a fierce aura that cannot be hidden, as if he were the sword itself. The old man's sharp gaze swept over Zayn Martel as he spoke.
I was the one who deliberately prevented them from swallowing me whole and pulling out the sword in all those years. But I've done enough waiting for the right person to appear. It's only with you that I feel a familiar aura.
Swallowing you whole?
That's right. I am the spirit of the sword vigor created by the Black Abyss sword.
Zayn Martel was shocked to his core. He was the spirit of the sword vigor? He had never heard of such a thing. The sword vigor could give life to a living person? He couldn't imagine what would happen if those outside heard this. As Zayn Martel's eyes widened in surprise, the old man began to explain.
My master is too strong, so he allowed me to exist, but he had long left since then. If I stayed here all alone, I'll be worn down by you guys, and eventually I'll lose my intelligence and become a useless iron sword. If I guess correctly, you have the Azure Dragon blood, correct?
Yes. I do have the Azure Dragon blood.
That's right. If you help me leave quietly, not only will you get the blood essence of the divine beast, you will also get my protection.
This is a huge temptation. But if I devour it, I might lose my sense of self.
Don't worry, I have a way to hide it from others by leaving a fake Black Abyss sword here. Moreover, 1/10 of the blood essence will be left, which is more than enough to hold on until the next Sword King selection. No one will suspect a thing. Plus, regardless of whether you agree or not, I will be opening the seal of the Black Abyss sword and secretly releasing the blood essence and sword vigor. By then, it's up to you whether you want it or not.
This is a tough decision, but I don't have much time to think about it. All right then, we have a deal.
Good.
The two then discussed some countermeasures, after which Zayn Martel's spiritual strength left the mysterious space within the Black Abyss sword. As Zayn Martel opened his eyes, the sword vigor of the Black Abyss sword suddenly burst out. The raging hurricane rampaged on, and numerous wild beasts bursting with power appeared. The sound was even more deafening than what was heard during Terran's turn. It was not until 15 minutes later that the noise completely disappeared.
Very good. He is indeed the Azure Dragon Academy's pride and joy. He had brought about such a strong reaction with the Sword King. Listen up, Zayn Martel is the next Sword King. Does anyone have any objections?
Why did it have to be Zayn Martel? He's not even worthy of being the Sword King.
Why am I not upset? Is it because I've been too focused on my own training? Or is it because I've accepted my fate as a loser?
In a world where cultivation and martial arts reigned supreme, a young man named Zayn Martel stood alone at the center, his body trembling with an unceasing flow of sword vigor. It was as if he was a vessel, unable to contain the power coursing through his veins.
Oh, this is insane. How can I possibly control this much power?
The sword vigor rushed wildly through his meridians, causing his face to alternate between green and red, making him feel like he was on the brink of collapse.
Zayn Martel, stay strong.
As the wild wind howled, Zayn Martel's body began to emit an aura that only practitioners from the heavenly level would have.
It's not lasting longer.
Zayn Martel and leaped to the side of the Black Abyss sword.
Okay. I can do this.
No one noticed the inexplicable bloodstain on Zayn Martel's hand.
Young master, I'm here.
I'll leave this to you.
Zayn Martel replied, then placed his blood-covered hand on the handle of the Black Abyss sword. An invisible halo, centered on Zayn Martel, suddenly began to spread out within a radius of 3 meters. This was Bo Thompson's great power. Bo Thompson's true form was that of a three-tailed spirit fox demonic beast, an outstanding, shape-shifting demonic beast.
Even if my cultivation is only at the 4th level of the Foundation realm, it won't be a problem for me to hide it from those before me.
I'll do this.
The veins on his limbs looked like they were about to pop out, indicating how much strength he was exerting. The hearts of the people around them tightened and their brows stood on end. No one dared to make a sound. They were afraid of distracting Zayn Martel.
Come on, Zayn Martel.
The 5 Spirit Sect's advancement depends on you.
Little did they know that things were not as difficult as it looked for Zayn Martel. Without the sword vigor of the old man within the sword, he could easily approach it. Instead of a threatening aura, he emitted one that was gentle and harmonious.
Senior, I'm about to start.
The Black Abyss sword shook for a moment in response to Zayn Martel's words.
Senior, can you keep a low profile? I'm afraid of alarming those outside.
As soon as he finished speaking, the aura of the sword immediately died down, and the sword suddenly released a black ray.
Oh, this is it.
Crack, crack, crack! The Black Abyss sword shone with a glaring black ray, and when it was held in his hand, Zayn Martel looked like he was holding a great beast. The weight of the sword was almost palpable, and he could feel the ancient power coursing through its veins.
This is the Black Abyss sword used by the Sword King himself. It's so powerful.
The sword's weight was crushing, but Zayn Martel was determined to wield it. He felt a surge of confidence as he realized he could lift objects that were heavy beyond measure.
I'm already stronger than I thought.
The 5 drops of blood essence from the Golden Titan's blood essence slowly floated out of the sword's pit, releasing an aura of ancient power. The scene unfolded before him like a living tapestry. The 5 divine beasts roared non-stop. their blood essence rising into the air like a swirling vortex.
It seems that the dragon-devouring spiritual body wants to devour the 4 divine beasts and the Titan's blood essence.
With a sense of joy, he left 1/10 of the blood essence as promised, keeping the rest for himself.
Senior, you're up.
The dark clouds and rolling thunder enveloped the sealed sword, and a trail of black flames shot up into the sky. More than 10 floating black figures appeared out of nowhere, turning out to be masters of the intermediate level. The appearance of these people sent shockwaves through the Five-Spirit sect. The leader, clad in a black robe, sporting a fiercely murderous look on his face, turned out to be Lane of the Azure Dragon Academy.
Ha ha! The day we have been waiting for has finally come.
The disciples were shocked, and Xavier's eyes widened as he cursed.
Master Lane, what are you doing? The Sword King's sword drawing ceremony is still ongoing, so what are you doing here?
The Sword King? That's what I'm here for.
Xavier recognized the origin of the black flames and reacted immediately.
The Devil Flame Sect? Are you a spy of the Devil Flame Sect? How dare the lowly Devil Flame Sect cause trouble for the Five-Spirit sect? Do they have a death wish?
Maxwell Reed, the Deputy Hall Master of the Hall of the Holy Sword, Alex White, and others looked on in shock. The tension was palpable as Lane instructed his followers to seize Zayn Martel and the Sword King.
Everyone, today is the Sword King's nomination day. And this Zayn Martel, he is the murderer of Murphy. Seize him and the Sword King, as well as the blood essence.
8 to 9 intermediate level masters flew towards Zayn Martel, their goal clear: to kill Zayn and bring back the Sword King and blood essence. The air was thick with anticipation as Maxwell Reed unleashed his terrifying vital energy, revealing the 6th level of his intermediate level.
This is bad. They are going to attack Zayn Martel and the Sword King. Do not let them have their way.
Would Zayn be able to wield the Black Abyss sword effectively? Would Lane succeed in his mission to seize Zayn Martel and the Sword King? The answers lie just beyond the precipice. In the thick of the valley, the skies darkened with the clash of titans. Zayn Martel rose into the air, diving headfirst into the fray against the Devil Flame Sect. The deans of the 4 major academies, alongside warriors from the Hall of the Holy Sword in the intermediate level, unleashed a fierce offensive. More than a dozen members of the intermediate level fought above, their clash echoing like thunder, shaking the very sky. The valley roared with power, sword chi streaking through the air. The intensity was so immense, even the dark clouds seemed to be torn apart.
What on earth is going on? Is the Devil Flame Sect turning on itself? Have they been waiting for this moment all along? There's no way they can break the Sword King's seal that easily. They've got to have another plan.
Zayn Martel's heart pounded, but his face remained calm as he gripped the Black Abyss sword.
It's done.
The Black Abyss sword trembled, and suddenly a duplicate sword materialized, identical in every way. This was the plan Zayn Martel and the Old Spirit had devised. Zayn Martel hurled the forged sword into the pit, storing the real one in his storage ring. The priority now? Get out of this chaos alive. The Five-Spirit sect fought fiercely against the Devil Flame Sect spies, while the remaining Foundation-level disciples had retreated, knowing they couldn't withstand a battle of this magnitude.
Bo Thompson, it's done. Let's go.
Okay, young master.
The illusions around Zayn Martel vanished, revealing his true form. He used the second move of the 3-star step, but as he fled, a member of the Devil Flame Sect descended, flames raging around him.
Zayn Martel, where do you think you're going? Come back and die.
The man unleashed his Sky Devil killing palm, a dark ray of light speeding towards Zayn Martel's chest.
Iron Body, activate.
White runes covered Zayn Martel's body, and he roared, throwing a punch to meet the incoming attack. The collision sent the chubby man flying back.
What kind of power is this?
None of your business. You shouldn't have provoked me.
With a cold glint in his eye, Zayn Martel rushed forward, his dragon blood sword slicing through the air.
A mere 9th level foundation level practitioner thinks he can fight me? You must be joking.
Their battle grew more intense, sword glows and demonic flames intertwining. Zayn Martel's strength increased with every clash, gradually overpowering his opponent. Meanwhile, the leaders of the Five Spirit Sect were locked in combat with the Devil Flame Sect traitors. Maxwell Reed, Xavier, and Alex White, each formidable in their own right, fought against equally powerful foes.
Lane, you traitor! Why did you betray us? What did the Devil Flame Sect offer you?
Betray? I've always been an elder of the Devil Flame Sect. The misery of the Five Spirit Sect is my greatest reward.
Demonic flames swirled around Lane as he revealed his true power. He was stronger than he let on, a level 4 practitioner.
I'll take revenge on Zayn Martel for killing David King.
As the battle raged, Zayn Martel's strength continued to surprise his opponent. After exchanging hundreds of blows, the chubby man realized he was outmatched.
There's something wrong with this kid.
Too late to run now.
With a final powerful strike, the dragon blood sword flared up, piercing through the opponent's vital energy and throat, ending his life. The battle intensified, the glow of swords and demonic flames weaving together in a deadly dance. Zayn Martel and the chubby middle-aged man exchanged blows at lightning speed, their movements blurring in the chaos of combat. Meanwhile, the Five Spirit Sect fought fiercely against the Devil Flame Sect traitors. The air was thick with tension, the smell of burning energy, and the roar of clashing auras. Leading the charge was Maxwell Reed, his aura blazing with a level 6 intermediate level power. His sword chi cut through the air like a storm, forcing the mysterious man in the black robe to dodge repeatedly.
You won't escape this time.
The fierce winds from their clash howled through the valley, shaking the very ground beneath them. Xavier, with his earthy golden vital energy, launched a brutal assault, his fist blazing with righteous fury. Lane wielded a long black spear, its dark energy crackling as it clashed fiercely with Xavier's fist. The valley echoed with the sounds of their battle, the ground trembling beneath their power. On the other side of the valley, the Devil Flame Sect had come prepared, their numbers perfectly matched to take on the Five Spirit Sect and Zayn Martel. The air was filled with tension, every warrior fighting for their life. But as Zayn Martel stood victorious, the chaos around him only deepened. The valley was a battlefield, filled with the sounds of clashing steel and the cries of warriors. What new dangers awaited him? And what was the Devil Flame Sect's true plan? Will Zayn Martel and the Five Spirit Sect overcome the treacherous Devil Sect? The fate of many hangs in the balance, and the true battle has only just begun.